presented by Prize Picks. Get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup by using the code LIGHTYEARS. Welcome to Light Years. The Warriors lose in LA to the Clippers 102-99. Quick programming note here, guys. Obviously, no Sam, no Andy tonight, so we're joined by Kelly O, longtime Warriors fan. He writes for the Mercury News, does some Warriors coverage, has his own Substack where he writes about the Warriors too. Super knowledgeable about the game. So me and Kelly are going to do the show tonight. Obviously, Warriors lose a tough one, but a fun one. You know, I think this is a very resilient group, and we're seeing that over the course of the season here, and we can dive more into that. But, I mean, my first thoughts are just, Ty Lue always seems to gum up the Warriors' offense. He always makes it tough on them, going back to his Cavs days. But, yeah, where are you at with the game tonight, and what were your thoughts?
Would you consider this the first moral victory of the season?
Such a thing exists? Yeah, first moral victory loss. I think you could say that. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's totally fair.
What you were saying about Lue's offense or his defense, like from the first possessions of the game, you see that the Clippers' hands are in all the passing lanes. Like they know what's going to happen. There was one possession that stuck out to me early in the first quarter. It was Buddy Hield was coming off a pin down, and he had the roller going down into the paint right off of it. And two of the Clippers defenders went over, and they knew exactly where that pass is going. And I was thinking to myself that Ty Lue has seen that exact play with Klay Thompson so many times, right? Yep. It's just ingrained in that team. So frustrating loss, but also I feel like this is one of the teams that I expect the Warriors to struggle with.
Yeah, and it's been a thing. I think that's now 6 out of 7 games that the Clippers have beat the Warriors. Ty Lue has been seeing this system for years and years and years now, going back to his days with the Cavs, the finals battles, and he just makes it really tough on them. And I think tonight is really where you see, and we talk about this ad nauseum on the show, but it's where you really see kind of the lack of the second option when teams who really understand how to defend the Warriors system well, that's when it's like, okay, you kind of need another guy who can go get a bucket. Kuminga can give you it in spurts, but he only played 19 minutes tonight. And really, You touched on this earlier. I think kind of the story of the game, turnovers, 19 turnovers tonight. I believe 12 in the first half, 6 in the
first quarter.
Yeah, 6 in the first 6 minutes of the game. And then free throws as well. Warriors go 9 of 19 from the line. Clippers shoot 16 of 18. I mean, that's the game right there. If you make your free throws at just a normal rate, you probably end up with a victory tonight, or at least you're not battling back from 10 in the last minute of the game.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, do you think the turnovers tonight are more of a personnel issue, or do you think it's on Kerr and Stotts maybe adapt the offense a little bit when they know they're facing a team that knows their actions well?
I think I'd lean towards the second. You definitely want to see against teams that know the Warriors well, like the Brad Stevens teams as well. I feel like you see the Warriors go for high pick and rolls a little bit more because they're more unpredictable. There's more decisions that can happen off that initial pass to Draymond or Steph, taking the ball himself. And the Clippers, they know what they're doing. They have really good length too defensively. I mean, Chris Dunn looks massive out there compared to some of the Warriors guards. He really dwarfs Podziemski. He's super athletic too, and he was just all over the place. He's really turned into quite a player after being very frustrating for his first years in the league.
Yeah, no, he's always been a really good defensive player, but you can tell he's at the point now in his career, and this is Chris Dunn, obviously, where he's not concerned about being kind of an offensive guy anymore, and he just really bought into like kind of that Caruso, Melton, GP2 style role where it's like he's just going to cause havoc defensively, and he's so fast, he's so athletic, he has fantastic hands, and it clearly bothered the Warriors all night. You touched on Podziemski a little bit, and I think this is something that we wanted to jump into, so let's just get to it now. What are your thoughts on him so far this season? Because I expected a lot of him out of him coming into the year, and I think a lot of us did, and he just hasn't been that yet. Do you think it's more of just not finding a rhythm? Was it the injury stuff factoring in, or is it just kind of year 2 and teams have scouted him a little bit and they know his tendencies?
I wonder how much of it is the role as well. Last season, so many of Podziemski's great moments came next to Steph in the starting lineup in place of Klay and in minutes that kind of mix the starters. We've been seeing a lot of him without Steph on the court. And I joke about this often, both in what's known as the Goon Chat and on Twitter, that Steve Kerr's backup point guards are like the worst possible backup point guards for Steve Kerr. And Podziemski, when he was playing off guard and playing off of Steph, there's so many things you can do. Steph causes chaos, and you're going to thrive off of that if you make smart decisions, right? We saw Jordan Poole do it. We've seen a lot of lesser players do really well just reacting to that. But the Steve Kerr backup point guard, you get the sense that Steve doesn't want them to take risks, that he wants the turnover rate to stay low. And I could think of so many backup point guards that fit that bill. Like Brad Wanamaker was one of them. Nico Mannion was another. Corey Joseph, and all of them actually ended up having sky high turnover rates.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of thing you're seeing with Podziemski. He wasn't that bad with the turnovers today, but there are a few times where he was throwing out passes. I was thinking to myself, if I was a defender, I would just sit on his drives and wait for him to kick it out. And
yeah, I mean, he's passing out of layups constantly, and that's not something that I feel. I mean, he did it a little bit last year, but it feels like it's more prevalent this year. Like he's almost scared to shoot at the rim. You know, I think a piece dropped over the summer, and they were talking about how they were trying to get him to eliminate the floaters from his game because, you know, obviously analytics say it's not an efficient shot, whatever. And I actually, especially because of his athletic limitations, he doesn't get great lift around the rim as a finisher. He's just not, it's just not part of his game. So I think it actually is doing him a disservice to take a shot that he's actually good at and take it out of his game because you can see him overthinking now.
Right. It's made him a little more predictable on those drives as well.
Absolutely. And he's not going to that floater at all. And like the hook shot was an issue last year. Like I don't want to take in many more of those hook shots, but the floater, he was really good at it.
Yeah.
And to totally eliminate that from his game, especially when he's still kind of a young player and he's still trying to find his footing, I think it's a miscalculation. And I think it's gotten in his own head because he doesn't really have the tool set or the problem solving now when he gets 2 feet in the paint. He doesn't really know what to do.
No, you know, one thing that confuses me about it too is I've seen quotes from the Warriors coaching staff comparing him to Jalen Brunson, another lefty who kind of likes to get in the paint. And Brunson lives off tough twos. And of course, you have to be really good at that to have a positive impact. We've seen a lot of players take tough twos who aren't good at making them. But those shots become super important in the playoffs because I think of them as attacks. Everyone is trying to get free throws, 3-pointers, layups. Someone has to take those mid-range jumpers. And if you have someone that makes them, it's just so demoralizing as a defender. And you see that Podziemski has really good footwork in the paint. Like there's all these things that should add up to the ability to make those shots. He's just not taking them. And there were multiple times today where I was just thinking, like, why are you doing this? You're actually making life harder for everyone else around you, which is again the kind of classic Steve Kerr backup point guard. I almost wish he'd be foisted with combo guards that he hates and doesn't respect.
No, I mean, you're totally right. Steve loves his caretaker, security blanket backup point guards. And it seems like he's kind of tried to push Pods into that role. And like I said, I do think they're doing him at his service right now, but he also just has to be better. You know, he has to look to score more. There was multiple times tonight where it's like 2 feet in the paint, shot blocker kind of rotating over, and he's kicking out to like Kuminga for 3. That's not like, at that point, just shoot the ball, man. You're 6 feet from the rim. You know, just go up with it.
The one where he kicked it out to Gary Payton just drove me nuts. So Gary made the right decision. He passed it to Kuminga on the wing, but it's not an ideal outcome if you're in the paint and you hit. If you're in the paint and you have an open shot and you're passing to Gary Payton in the corners, it's not great decision making. But I mean, I would consider that really the only substantial blemish on Steve Kerr's coaching this year. And I don't know how much of it to attribute to players trying to live up to what they think Kerr's desires are versus what he's been telling them. But I mean, otherwise, I've been thrilled with what this coaching staff has done with the roster.
No, absolutely, man. And I think that's a good jumping off point to kind of get to something that we were chatting a little bit about during the game over in Discord. This team is just much more resilient than last year. You know, there was multiple. I mean, they could have packed it away in the first quarter tonight, and they just kind of kept battling and kept fighting. And I think this speaks to something that we were kind of saying. The vibe is just better. Do you think, I mean, and obviously I think their ability to get stops more consistently helps that too. Like obviously when you can get stops, like it makes a lot of it look better. It makes you look more resilient.
Of course.
But where do you think that derives from? Do you think it's purely just a vibes thing, or do you think there's anything else to add to that?
I think the vibes are a big part of it. I think also something that we've talked about is the minutes distribution is allowing people to go all out in their minutes. The defensive rotations are a lot tighter from everyone, in part because I don't think they're as exhausted.
The team themselves have talked about that. Yeah, the guys on the team have talked about that.
Yeah, and you know, I think I kind of feel bad for Klay Thompson leaving, and I'm sure he has weird emotions about the whole thing. But he was playing too many minutes last year for most of the season, and I find it hard to believe that didn't play into his poor defense, which was admittedly very poor. Especially, you know, him trying to rotate from the low block as a rim protector. Those aren't things that he's naturally good at, and then you add up the physical exhaustion, and I think that and the vibes last year. I mean, you had Klay, who was unhappy about his role. Chris Paul was a good soldier, but had never come off the bench in his career. I really doubt he was having a good time watching the Warriors lose. minutes distribution felt wonky last year, and I think the vibes didn't really work, and it just didn't seem like a team that wanted to play for each other nearly as much as this one. And
Mhm.
the minutes distribution being what it is this season, I think everyone feels much more stake in the team
Sure.
and
Yeah.
their own
And
success.
yeah, totally. And I mean, giving themselves a chance to win that game tonight, considering where it was. I mean, they were down, I think, 10 with a couple minutes left there.
Yeah.
And you get a shot to win the game. Gary makes an incredible play
Man, that
defensively.
steal was unbelievable. I mean,
He,
how many
he
players can do that type of thing?
very, very few. And he just he continues to do it to some of the best players in the league. I think he got Norm on that. I'm pretty sure he poked it away from Norm, who,
Yeah.
I mean, goodness gracious, Norm Powell, man. He just absolutely smokes the Warriors every time. There's a magnet in the ball when he plays against the Warriors. It's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you get a kind of a semi-contested step look, and then I think Gary took the one from the top of the key, and it was straight, hit the back rim. But it is what it is. Like you said, this is kind of a moral victory loss, just in the sense of hey, these guys aren't just going to throw in the towel when things start going badly. You did talk about Clay a little bit earlier, and I think this is something that's interesting. Do you think, just purely from an offensive standpoint, do you think the team misses Clay on a night like this just because it's another guy who can kind of go get a bucket? And I mean, Buddy had an okay night, definitely not what we've come to expect from him. Do you think a night like tonight shows the need for Clay? I mean, Lindy Waters playing 29 minutes. I like what Lindy's doing, but I don't know if he should ever be playing 29 minutes.
No, although I will say I was surprised. Lindy rebounds. Every time I
Mhm.
watch Lindy, I'm surprised by his activity level. I can
Yeah.
see why Steve likes him.
3
I don't
steals
think
tonight
that
too.
last year's Klay Thompson would really help all that much, outside of maybe those pin downs they used to run with him and Trace Jackson Davis could generate some easy twos. I think
Mhm.
one of the things I'm struck with on this team is that Jonathan Kuminga is really the only player who can self-generate twos outside of Steph. Like so many of the Warriors' 2-point shots are manufactured from these sets that are really not like anything else in the league, where you're using the post as a staging ground to create shots in the middle of the paint off all these back cuts. And good teams like the Clippers, who scout really well, can take that away. And when you don't have that, I don't think last year's version of Clay was going to get you the easy two, unless maybe you gave him the ball as a smaller defender in the post. But
Totally.
I do kind of even miss that. And Jonathan Kuminga in the post takes more fadeaways than I would like him to. And he's got good footwork. He's got good enough footwork to get into the paint and pump fake and that type of thing. But that's something that I worry about for the Warriors this season as they face harder teams, is someone other than Steph creating those easy twos, because Kuminga might not even be out there at the end of the game because of
Yeah,
his
and I mean,
defense and attentiveness.
Kuminga only 19 minutes tonight. Yeah, I mean, that's probably somewhere where they maybe could have looked a little bit more for some offense. He had a really good spurt there to start the fourth quarter. These are kind of the decisions that Steve's faced with, just to we had to go small tonight, and that just made things a lot tougher. Just because, I mean, no Looney really hurt. Zubats didn't kill him, but just not having Looney's presence out there to gobble up some offensive rebounds, get some extra possessions, that really hurts on a night like tonight when the offense isn't going well, because those extra possessions tend to be good shots because guys are classing the glass, you're kicking back out for threes,
Absolutely.
or regenerating a drive to the rim. So yeah, I mean, just a tough night, but like I said, just the resilience that this group is showing. I'm so encouraged by it, and I think there's just really something to build off of here. But yeah, so all right, we got to do some ad reads here. My favorite part of the show, obviously.
Well, you got the voice for it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Okay, so we are first going to talk about Prize Picks. All right. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So tonight I played Steph more than 21.5 points. I jumped on that. I jumped on the app at halftime, and I did this. So I got some kind of live lines. I had Steph more than 21.5 points, Wiggins more than 10.5, and Dre more than 12.5. And I used the flex play, and that's one of the cool things about Prize Picks. When you use the flex play option, only 2 of the 3 have to hit. I don't think Dre hit more than 12.5, but I know Steph and Wiggs both hit more than their total, so I still get paid on it. It's a lesser amount, but I still get paid out on that. So download the app today and use code LIGHTYEARS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup by using the code LIGHTYEARS. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, and we got one more to do. All right, this is a bit of a new sponsor for us here. Talking Manscaped. So, get this Prize Picks thing out of here. All right. So, with the holidays creeping up faster than your aunt's fruitcake recipe, I've got something way better to share with you. If you want to look sharp for all those festive gatherings and maybe finally win that Best Groomed at the Family Dinner award, check out the latest masterpiece from Manscaped, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver. Trust me, it's like Rudolph for your face, guiding you to a smooth, irritation-free shave. Head over to manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using code LIGHTYEARS for $20 off plus free shipping. So, Manscaped was kind enough to actually send me a Chairman Pro. They sent them to, I believe, me, Sam, and Andy. Mm-hmm. And I used it over the weekend. I had to go to like kind of a barbecue thing on Saturday. Use it to clean up my neckline. The thing works like a charm. So it has these two interchangeable skin safe blades. And essentially what it's just like a smoother, softer shave. But you can also like keep some stubble around. So it's really good for just like kind of adjusting your look and grooming your beard, obviously. So the Chairman Pro isn't just for daily shaves either. It's powerful enough to tackle up to 5-day growth, making it perfect whether you're shaving every day or just tidying up after a few days. And with up to 75 minutes of runtime on a single charge, you'll have plenty of juice to go from Santa's beard to smooth as a snow angel. Get the Chairman Pro today and experience a shave that is as smooth as you deserve. Get 20% off plus free shipping when you use the code LIGHTYEARS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus the free shipping using code LIGHTYEARS at manscaped.com. All right, let's jump back in here. I think early in the season, Steph was kind of coasting. And I think over the last couple weeks post-injury, he's really started to turn it up a little bit and kind of reach the levels that we're used to him seeing. Because I think late last season, there's some concern with how he ended the year. And I think some of that was maybe just the malaise of the season. And it was just kind of a dour season all around for many, many reasons. But he really looks like himself again. And what he's so good at now is just picking his spots. It feels like he can get anything he wants, anytime he wants. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on Steph these last couple of weeks? And, to me, there's no question he's still good enough to lead a title team, especially after seeing how he's played the last 2 or 3 weeks or so. Where are you at with Steph right now?
What you were saying about picking his spots, made me think about, I think the last bucket that he scored of the night, he got a high pick and roll against Zubac and split him and got into the paint. And I feel like Steph has gotten so selective about when he goes into the paint. He's using the increased portion of outside shots to his benefit. I think the more he spams the three, the more shocking it is, the easier looks he gets in the paint, which is great, because something I wonder about as Steph ages is how will he hold up physically, not his ability to do things, but what will his body allow him to do? And part of that, I want him to preserve himself. And I think getting easier looks when he does go into the paint helps us as fans. Imagine the Warriors in the finals with 37-year-old Steph, as opposed to him going in through a thicket of bodies. It's almost like he has these wide open looks in the lane because they were expecting him to pull up, and then he just goes right into the lane. It's really beautiful to watch. He's so smart now. Yeah, no, and it's such like a divergence from earlier in his career where he would really dance with the ball and he's stringing together 4, 5, 6 dribble combo moves. And now it's just like kind of like you're saying, he just kind of hesitates, looks at the rim, and gets into the paint. He's made the game so simple. And I talked about this a couple weeks ago too. He's really reached that like late career MJ Kobe stage where it's like you're not getting the kind of the level of fervor he had in that third quarter. You're not getting that for 36 minutes anymore, but he's gotten so smart and so selective about like when to assert himself. And it just, he's playing beautiful basketball right now. And I think any concerns that anybody had coming into the season about what level he would be with, to me, those have been washed away over the last couple of weeks. He's still that dude, man. He's incredible. He's incredible. He also looks bigger than ever. That also makes me think of late career Michael Jordan. When he worked with Tim Grover, I believe they set his target goal weight by the end of his career to be around 215, 220. Yep. And they spent multiple seasons getting there, adding 5 pounds at a time, with the idea that you didn't want to overload him. Then Steph seems to have done the same thing. If you look at videos of him in 2021, the amazing season that ended in the play-in loss, or even in the 2019 finals, he looks pretty scrawny compared to this version of Steph, who also holds up
Totally.
really well in the switches now. Doesn't have the foot speed that he used to, but he's strong as hell. It's really encouraging.
He was really good in that fourth quarter defensively. He didn't let Harden go by him like one time. It didn't feel like.
No.
No, I mean he's just been so rock solid, man. And he just, like I said, I have zero concerns about where he's at and where he's going to be at come playoffs if he's healthy. Let's bounce over to Draymond here, because I think we talked about this a little bit offline. Is Draymond the worst foul grifter you've ever seen in your entire life?
Absolutely, and it's really funny because tonight's game featured the best of all time, James Harden. Then I hate the way that Harden plays, in part because it's unnatural. I would never see anyone do it in pickup, and if you did, you'd laugh at that person. They would change their behavior. There'd be social consequences for that type of bullshit. Draymond is the same way on everything on offense nowadays, and there is one drive that he had to the hoop in the fourth quarter where he so clearly wanted the foul and he threw the ball up. It was a horrible finish because he never makes a good attempt at finishing the shots when he grifts for the fouls. The refs hate him. I mean, they have to put up with him because he's Draymond Green, but they're not going to be kind to him. And it's just so funny watching him grift so terribly. He has no success rate on the shots or the grifting. And I do wish he would stop, because he's throwing away points every time that he tries to foul bait. And I mean, Greg Holtzman is asking if this is the worst game of the season. That layup was the worst one I've seen in the season, but Draymond hit 2 threes. And the NBA TV announcers, the NBA TV announcers didn't know that, because they joked both times, like, yeah, Draymond making shots, crazy. Who would have thought? 45% from 3. I'm sure Bob Fitzgerald said something about it tonight.
Of course, he always does. No, I didn't think it was Dre's worst game of the season. I mean, I think he's been just spectacular defensively so far this year. He's so locked in, and it's weird. The defensive rating like actually doesn't bear that out yet. We're actually better with Draymond off the floor defensively if you look at the numbers, but I think that's probably just small sample size noise.
Sure.
But it was so funny. I know the exact play you're talking about, where he went in and tried to get that foul. And he drives in his Zubox, clearly not a foul, and then he gets the ball like the next time in transition, and he was going right at the rim and making Mark Davis call a foul no matter what. And he actually got it somehow. I don't know why they gave him the foul, but they did. But yeah, he's the worst at it. It is a really funny juxtaposition to watch, like him try to foul grift and then Harden just be the master at it, as he has been for his entire career. Yeah. Okay, we're going to touch on this again real quick. Ross in the chat is saying, where's Sam and Andy? I did announce at the top that Sam and Andy are not here tonight. Sam was actually lucky enough to go to Intuit Dome, and he saw the game in person tonight. And Andy is going to be out for a couple weeks. New father, Andy. Congrats to Andy. But Andy will not be on the pod for at least a couple weeks now. So it'll be mostly me and Sam handling it. But obviously Sam had a scheduling conflict tonight. So it is me and Kelly taking it over. So what do you think about, teams like the Clippers, who have the kind of this heavy wing oriented team who can really muck up what Golden State does, and then that kind of forces GSW to play smaller, and it hurts their defense a little bit. I don't think the Clippers are going to be a factor in the playoffs just from a talent perspective, but what teams would you see in potential playoff matchups who can maybe emulate some of what the Clippers did defensively to the Warriors tonight, and give them similar issues over a 7-game series?
The Lakers always terrify me, in part because of the karmic implications of losing to LeBron again. That means like taking a week off the internet, but what you're talking about, the wide rangy wings. Anthony Davis is so mobile that he might as well be a wing on defense. And LeBron has kind of the Ty Lue thing going, where he's seen every single one of these plays and can call them out and diagram them in his sleep. And the Lakers are a big physical team. And I think right now the Warriors have depth on their side, but in the playoffs, the rotations will shrink. And I do wonder, how long can you run teams off the court like this? Also, if I think about the Warriors second unit right now, it's very run and gun, which is the complete antithesis of every other Warriors championship bench unit. The Livingston, Iguodala lineups had a crawling pace. Even the Jordan Poole bench lineups, was a lot of dribble handoffs with Bielitsa or Draymond or something like that.
JTA.
Not all the same off-ball crazy stuff that's going on now. And smaller rotations might mean you don't have the same chance to do that type of stuff. You might be more tired against a big team like the Lakers. And that's, if you're playing a big physical team, I think you want that series to be over as quickly as possible. The longer it goes, the more it impedes your chances to compete.
Yeah, I mean,
burn through glass.
I think the Lakers will just always scare me because of the LeBron. I mean, AD has maybe been the best player in the league so far this year. He's been incredible. Truly one of the top 3 or 4 guys in the league so far, has a chance maybe to win MVP. But I think not only obviously just AD's defensive ability, but LeBron's knowledge of what the Warriors want to do will always like scare me from the standpoint of he knows exactly what actions they want to go to at exactly what time. He gets 2 or 3 steals a game playing against them, just rotating and picking off a weak side pass where Draymond's trying to like fit it into a cutter, you know. So I think them, and then I guess OKC could probably do some of the same stuff, but they don't worry me quite as much because they just don't have the size. Like I don't think they're obviously very, very good defending the ball, but they don't really have the physical, like the physicality, I'd say, to really bother the Warriors over the course of a 7-game series. Because those are the teams that really tend to bother the Warriors over this entire run. The teams who can be super, super physical, and the Thunder have some of that, but they're also just young. You know,
they're babies by NBA standards, and I think
right.
like the Warriors were babies when they finally made it to the finals. I mean, actually, not even finally. It was so out of nowhere for most people outside of Ethan Sherwood Strauss and a few believers. But if you're making it to the finals that young in your NBA career, you're a unicorn. You're going to be in the top 25, and I don't think Shea is that. Frankly.
I agree. Yeah,
I do wonder what they'll look like with Hartenstein on the team. If that'll allow them to be a little more physical. Yeah, but I'm not the West is, I mean, Memphis, I think, was the last team in the West that really gave the Warriors hell defensively. The Warriors were playing drunk that entire series.
Yeah.
And the turnovers, the fast shots. And I don't see any other teams in the West that really have the ability to rush the Warriors into crazy decision-making that comes from fatigue and also the desire to just get a shot off because you can't. So,
yeah,
I don't know. The East worries me more for now. But
yeah, I hear you.
Still health permitting, where this is a team of old men.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely, man. No, I couldn't agree more. All right, we got a couple more ad reads to do, and then we'll come back and wrap some stuff up. All right, so now I am going to talk to you guys about, if I can get it up on the screen, we're going to do some stuff with Body Spec here.
Do you think this is a male audience that we podcast to?
That we're podcasting to? I mean, I want to say that it's around 90-10, but we have some female listeners out there. Let's not forget about them. Let's not forget about them.
Sorry. Let me rephrase that. Do you think the advertisers think that this is a boys podcast?
I would assume so. All right. So Body Spec, ready to kickstart your fitness journey? Whether you're an athlete, a fitness enthusiast, or just getting back in shape, Body Spec has you covered. For less than a price of a haircut, you can get a DEXA scan, the world's most accurate body composition scan. So this is the perfect time to do something like this. It's holiday season. You can gift something like this to somebody. You can use it for your own New Year's resolution. And the thing is, with the code LightYears45, you get this scan done for $45. And typically these scans run over $100, right? So you're getting a really good deal on something like this. You can kind of check where your body's at, see where it's at before you eat all your holiday food and before you go back into the gym and start to, work on your body a little bit. And then you can do another one in the spring. And do the same thing and see how much of a change you're able to make in your body. I know Sam and I were bouncing around the idea of maybe like giving out a little like body spec swag pack to anybody who can like show the biggest improvement. That's not official yet, so don't quote me on that. But yeah, so all you have to do is just go to the Body Spec website, use the code LightYears45 at checkout, and then your scan will be $45. And they have mobile vans that can come to you. And there's all kinds of sites wherever you're at, whether you're in the Bay Area, I'm down in Southern California, I can get it done down here. So you're able to do this anywhere. And yeah, it's a really good thing to just, stay up with your health. And make sure you're taking care of your body, because if you can take care of your body, you're taking care of your mind at the same time. So yeah, that's Body Spec. Go to their website. The link will be in the description of the podcast. Use code LightYears45 at checkout. And yeah, get your $45 DEXA scan. All right. Last one, we are going to jump over to Mint Mobile. Where are we at here? Okay. So, oh shoot. Oh no. Technical difficulties, guys. Give me just a second here. All right. Here we go. All right, so this is another new one for me, Mint Mobile. I haven't read this one this year. I think we might have done something with these guys last year. All All right. Where's my ad readout? So with big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were going to pay magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about the gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. Guys, I think everybody's kind of experienced that with any type of like mobile carrier, whatever you might be using. They tell you it's going to be $40 a month, $50 a month, and then you check your bill, and all of a sudden you're paying up the nose for stuff that you didn't even know was part of the plan. You're using too much data. You get some weird charge for some type of call or something like that. But with Mint Mobile, you don't have to worry about that stuff. So Mint Mobile is here to the rescue with premium wireless plans starting at literally just $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lightyears. That is mintmobile.com/lightyears. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lightyears. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speeds slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. All right. What do we want to close the show out with here? I think it would be good because, you haven't been on the podcast yet. I think it would be good to just kind of what are your general thoughts on this team so far? They're 10-3. I think now they're technically maybe a half game back of the Thunder for first place of the West. So they're second in the West. The Thunder are 11-3. What are your thoughts just so far on the season, how the team's looked? What are your thoughts on the team just so far?
I'm so thrilled to see Steph playing meaningful games right now. The fact that the Warriors are contending 10, 13 games in the season, it means something. It means that they'll have getting out to a good start in the season means that they have a better chance of being in the playoffs or in the high seed push towards the end of the season. And that thrills me. The malaise of the last 2 seasons was just agonizing after experiencing the highs of the 22 season. And I want more. And that's something that's been consistent for me since, watching Steph go crazy during the weird COVID season, and it was clear that he was capable. And I think fans deserve the chance to see Steph do what he can do. We saw what he can do in the Olympics, and found myself wondering tonight, the Warriors need to find their own Norman Powell, someone who's acquired at a low cost for minimal assets. I mean, he got traded initially to Portland for Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood, and I believe got traded to to the Clippers next season for not much more. And one of those low value ads, you think about someone who could create shots for themselves or just react to what's going on with Steph will go such a long way to keep Steph in shape physically and in terms of stamina to be the Steph that we need for the Warriors to go deep in the playoffs. So
no, and I think that's a really good point. Like maybe it isn't really going out and getting a number 2 option per se. It's getting a guy like Norm Powell, right? And there are guys like that in the league, but just a guy who can go get a bucket like that. Obviously there was a lot of talk about Lauri Markkanen in the summer, and he signed after. Essentially, he can't be traded this season, so that's a moot point now. But I do kind of keep looking at the Jazz as a trade partner, and Colin Sexton is a name that really, really interests me. He's kind of in that Norm Powell mode, and he's rounded out some of the really rough edges of his game, and he can really go get a bucket. It's obviously not perfect, but it's just a guy who can, number one, get downhill, and he actually shoots the three pretty well, and he's athletic enough to defend. Would you be willing to move off a couple of guys for a guy like Sexton? Or Clarkson, I'm a little bit iffier on, I think, just because of the age, and he's probably going to expect more in terms of role. But I think Sexton's kind of a guy that fits that type of mold that you're specifying here.
I think I'd worry about Sexton's ability to hang defensively in the playoffs, or perhaps Steve Kerr's willingness to trust him in those types of situations.
I think that's the bigger one.
But yeah, the mold of I like gunners. I honestly have always had a soft spot for them. The skill level, it's cool watching people who can do stuff that isn't just algorithmic spamming 3-pointers.
I mean, you were raised on Monte Ellis, so obviously.
Yeah. Even Antoine Jameson, the man had an unbelievable bag in the mid post. And I love, even though it might not be efficient, and I'm not going to say that all these guys are winning players, I do like what it can get you when a team game plans your offense out of existence. It's really nice to have someone who you can just throw the ball to. They're flawed players sometimes, but I think the outline of someone like that, of the Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, find a lower budget one maybe, or kind
Sure.
of dumpster dive, for lack of a better word, for underutilized players. And I do trust Mike Dunleavy's ability to do that way more than I do Bob Myers. I mean, even Lindy Waters is a
Yes.
perfect example of someone who was on the outskirts of a rotation, who's giving the Warriors very valuable minutes.
Mhm.
I don't remember Bob Myers ever making any similar accusation with second round picks or anything like that.
Totally. No, and it's a fantastic point. Or Mike has shown a proclivity to actually do this, to go find guys kind of on the cheap. Yeah, I think he's much more willing to do it. I think even just his work this summer, going and essentially getting Melton, getting Buddy, getting slow mo, and kind of splitting the money
Yeah.
up wisely. And I mean, God, I feel like I'm going to say this after every game. I still think slow mo should play more. He just does so many things well, especially if Pods is struggling. Because slow mo is just kind of a bigger ball handler. He can do the caretaker stuff, but he's also so good defensively.
It's a better defensive caretaking lineup if you're gonna
Sure.
if Pods wants to caretake, and I hope he doesn't,
Yeah.
then yes, Kyle Anderson should absolutely play over him.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, he locked up Harden late a couple times on an
Oh, it
island
was
there.
beautiful.
He's so smart. He's so long. He uses his length so well despite being slow. He really is like perimeter loony. It's so funny that they're on the same team
Yeah,
because they just have so many similar traits.
I've
They
got to
have so
look up
many
the
similar.
lineup numbers on them soon.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
remember how many minutes they've played together, but I'm sure the defense is just murderous,
Oh, I'm sure.
murderously slow, but
Yeah.
murderous nonetheless.
Exactly. So Mark in the comments here is saying we need a front court second scorer. So would you kind of prefer a front court guy, or would you lean more to like a gunner type, like a Norm Powell, like a Colin Sexton? If you had to pick, if we're saying you can only get one, which way are you leaning?
Can the gunner get to the hoop?
Yes.
They'll
Yeah.
I'll take the gunner. I mean, I like front court scorers, and I like what they do for people like Jonathan Kuminga. If you have a stretch 4, stretch 5 who can shoot
Sure.
incredibly, that helps create other buckets. But even Anthony Davis, as great as he is, you still probably need someone to get him the ball in his hands. A lot of these
Mhm.
front court scorers, Nikola Jokic is one of the best players in NBA history now because he's a front court scorer that can create his own possessions and is not hamstrung by the limitations of his own ball handlers.
Sure.
The kind of quintessential gunner should be able to dribble, and if they can get downhill, I think I'd prefer that to a front scorer who needs to be set up. But then I don't know if you could find the next Daniel Gafford, that'd also be really cool because I like dunks, and the Warriors are not a very dunky team
Mhm.
outside of Kuminga.
Yeah.
He's not really a natural diver.
Yeah, and I think, this is a name that has percolated through Warriors spheres for many, many years now. Jakob Poeltl's playing some fantastic basketball up in Toronto. He's been over 2010, I think the last 3 games, he had like 30 and 15 the other night. And he makes more money now, so it's a little bit more complicated to get to his number. I want to say he's about 18 million a year. I could be wrong on that. But he's playing fantastic, and that's still a guy I'd love to keep an eye out for because I think he would just fit so well with everything the Warriors do. And I think Trace has been up and down this year.
There's flashes.
Yeah, there's flashes, and I think he's going to be a good player for a long time. But we talked about this a little bit offline. His finishing can still leave a little bit to be desired, especially kind of like those in between 4 to 5 footers. He just kind of seems to have like bricks for hand on those sometimes. So I think there's multiple ways they can upgrade this team. And the great part is that the depth is so good. Even if you are kind of doing a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-1,
Yeah.
you're probably not really worried about having enough playable bodies. So they're in a very good spot. And yeah, I've just been, to kind of wrap it up here, I think I've just been so encouraged by what we've seen in the early season. And it's such a divergence from how they started the last 2 years, where it really just felt like they were playing an uphill battle for the entire season.
Yeah.
After the first, they started 6-2 last year, but then I want to say they instantly lost like 8 of their next 10. And it just feels like you're fighting upstream. This team isn't going to have to do that.
No.
They could maybe sustain a minor injury or two and still be fine. And I think, as long as, the wheels don't fall off, this should probably be a top 4 seed in the West. Is that kind of what you see?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm curious to see how the Warriors locker room holds up over the course of the season between the depth, but also the better they play, the more the media will play up the possibility of a trade.
Sure.
And rightfully so. The Warriors have young players that are tradable. They haven't traded many of their first rounders outside of, I believe, the one that got sent to offload Jordan Poole. The Warriors have a lot more tradable assets than the Bay Area media has ever been willing to let on.
Yes.
And it's gonna be interesting to see what the Warriors choose to do with it, because they will have the option to do something. And if they're playing well, there's going to be noise about that. If they're playing badly, there's going to be noise about that. And the vibes are good right now. This team is resilient. I'm curious to see they suffer an injury or something like that, how the vibes are come February around the trade deadline, or if they have a really miraculously healthy season, how the vibes are around the trade deadline when people are saying like, what if they use Kuminga to get a star? What if they use some of the young guys to upgrade? How's everyone going to be feeling then? This last season was interesting in all the wrong ways. Books will be written about last season, I'm sure.
It'll be a big part of the documentary.
Yeah, this one maybe not, but this is much more fun. Feels wholesome. I'm enjoying games again, which is a really nice thing. And even a game like tonight that ends in a loss, I'm going to scroll Twitter tonight. Most times after losses, I just can't even do it. I don't want to see the noise. I don't listen to pods. It's just this team has an ability to really, really piss me off.
Yeah. No, for the first time in what feels like 24 plus months, I'm looking forward to Warriors games again. Whereas the last couple of seasons, it's like, God, I gotta watch this fucking team again. Like that's what it really felt like. But this year, it's like, all right, they play tonight. I'm excited. They got.
I don't have to pretend that I enjoy watching Chris Paul. I don't.
Oh my God!
The vibes are really good right now, and I hope they stay that way.
Kill our soul last season. No, they got 3 easy games coming up here. Easiest games: Hawks, Pels, Spurs. We could be talking about a team that's 13-3 here sometime next week, and then December gets really tough. That will be the toughest part of their schedule. But the biggest thing is you want to like reel off these wins that you should get. And then even if you go 500 next month, you're still in a good spot. You don't really hurt yourself that much.
I think the way that this team plays, and maybe this could be the kind of party note, is that I think this team is built to capitalize on bad teams or young teams who just don't have the physical ability or the mental ability to keep up with what the Warriors are doing. The pace of this team is just breakneck, not necessarily in how quickly they're getting the ball up the court, but the decisions, everything is quick. No one is really waffling with the ball in their hands, and it's making this fun. This is a very fun season.
Yeah, you have to be very disappointed to play this Warriors team. And like you said, they make decisions so quickly, and that's like everybody on the team. They finally have a team again where everybody's comfortable in chaos. And that's always been such an important thing for Warriors basketball. And they've crafted that group again. And like you said, I really don't worry about them playing bad teams this year. I think those are, unless it's just, you go 10 for 50 from 3, I think those are just going to be games where they kind of win them handily. No, I think that's a great note to end on. Kelly, thank you so much for coming on.
Tommy, thanks for having me. Sam, Andy, in absence, thank you for having me. Andy, hope you get some sleep wherever you are.
Yeah, and Kelly stayed up. Kelly's on the East Coast, so he stayed up with us till 1:45 a.m. here. So we really appreciate you, man. Sam and I will be back on Wednesday after the Hawks game. Thanks for tuning in tonight, guys. See you guys later.